and Dave, and it's a very special rock salt. You remember how they used to do very special Blossom episodes?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very special rock salt. It's like the after school special.
Yeah.
How you doing, guys? We got Jermaine from TRICORD. We got Yung Lou on the line, and Ryan from Reborn. And what?
I said, "What's up?
What's up?" and so Yung Lou and Ryan are out in Texas, and Jermaine is out in no, not in Atlanta. You're in Georgia, but you're not in Atlanta.
Yeah, Jessup, Georgia.
Jessup,
South Georgia.
All right.
The big city of Jessup, Georgia.
All right. So I don't know how do you want to start this, Aaron? You just want to go around the room or what?
Yeah. Again, what our topic is today is depression, overcoming depression, suicide, getting help and knowing there is help out there. And so I wanted to pull a group of people together, including myself, who have dealt with some of this stuff in their own way, and they got their own story. So I wanted to hear everybody's story. Maybe somebody can relate and take something away from it. Well, why don't we start with Ryan? This all started with you with you talked about your video. You came on and you had the video for
Ready to Fly.
Ready to Fly.
Sure.
And at the beginning of that video, there's a story told in it. Can you start with that?
Yeah, sure, man. So that music video, Ready to Fly, that was the first single that we had released as an original band. And it stemmed out from my suicide thoughts and me attempting suicide. So when I was 16, I had a gun to my head and I pulled the trigger and it jammed. And, when that happened, it was weird because I was afraid, but at that moment, I was very selfish. I didn't care. I wasn't, thinking about my family or friends or anything. It was just, I was very selfish. I was going through from what I call, those issues in life. A lot of things that were going on that, some people didn't know about, or not a lot of people knew about, things that I kept inside. And, it eventually built up to a point where I was just like, you know what, forget this. Like, my life isn't worth it. I'm not, there's no reason for me to be here, and I was just ready to give up on life. And so I put a gun to my head and I pulled the trigger and it jammed. And so in the beginning of that video, and I think I mentioned it previously, that when we came up with the idea for this video, our producers of the video, Milton and Ivory, shout out to those guys from LBE, they're awesome guys, and we sat there and we prayed, and it was like, Lord, what do you want us to do? Tell us how you want this direction of the video to go. Because honestly, I've never done a music video like that, so I didn't know what to do, what to expect, how it should play out. I was just like, this is my thought, and let's go from there. And so, we prayed about it, and the first thing he said was, why don't we have somebody in the beginning of the video, with the gun to his head? And, afterwards, of course, it jams. And when he said that, I kind of broke down, because I'm like, I knew that was coming from God, because nobody knew that about me. And not saying that it's necessarily me, but nobody knew my story. And so for them to even bring up that idea was just, I knew that this song was for sure 100% going to be great, knowing that story of me was going to come out.
Wow. And now, did you write the song about your story, or was it something else that inspired it?
So everything I write is really personal. I don't think I've ever written anything as far as there's random thoughts that come to my head. It's usually stuff that I've experienced or that I've gone through. So an idea will come to my head, and then I'll just go off of it. So like for Ready to Fly, the first thing that popped into my head was that beginning part where I say I'm falling to pieces, trying to live my life. And you know, for me, I've always known God. I always knew there was a God. I believed in God. I just never walked that right path. And so in that song, I say, you know, that I'm falling. I'm trying to live my life right. And, you know, so of course, at the chorus is when, you know, it says, I'm tired of falling into the darkness. I want to be in the light, and so on and so forth. But yeah, everything that I usually write is definitely based off an experience that I've gone through.
Cool. So at what point, I mean, I'm sure after the gun jammed and everything, and you're going through life the next couple of weeks after that, and you're probably still feeling pretty much the same though, aren't you? Or did you feel different?
You know, I think my thoughts on life, you know, they always say like your life flashes before you. And in that moment, you know, afterwards, it was like, okay, there's a reason that this happened. There's a reason that I didn't, you know, commit suicide. There's a reason for this. And again, I knew God. So at that time, it was like, okay, like God had to have stopped this. But also, even after that happened, going through all these things, still going to school and acting like, you know, everything was fine. You know, in those moments, I used to cut my wrists and stuff. So in those moments, I was still doing things to kind of ease the pain. And that was something that at that time I felt was helping me. And, you know, of course I was still hurting. I was still going through those things. But again, in that time of me knowing God, it was like, okay, I have to do something about this because I shouldn't have done this. There's an obvious reason for that.
So at what point in your life did you look back and go, wow, I'm glad that didn't work out like that?
Honestly, I feel like I look back at that almost every single day. And the reason is because, again, even after that, there was something that happened. And I believe Lou knows this story. I was in Kerrville with a friend of ours. His name was Dennis. And it was like 2 a.m. I was going through this depression. With me, depression comes just at random times. You know, I was in the military, so even with PTSD and stuff, these things just come into my mind, and it's like I have to do what I can to overcome those. But at that time, I was in the car and I was with a friend of mine, and he was like, "Hey, let's just take off." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Let's just go, like let's gun it." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And little did he know that I was just ready to take my life at that night, and he knew nothing about it. Had him in the car with me. And we just took off. I was doing 120 on this highway, and there was a small curve, and it just so happened to be raining enough to where, you know, how once the oils get wet on the road, you know, it starts
slick enough.
Yeah, exactly. And I took this real small turn, car spun out, and at that moment, I just remember realizing, like, holy crap, this is how it's gonna end. This is how I'm gonna go. And I'm like, this isn't what I wanted.
Right.
I mean, I got a friend of mine who I consider a brother. And again, at that time, those suicidal thoughts that make you selfish, you know, so you don't care about anything else but yourself. And, you know, it was those little key moments that really come back to me every day. And I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not there, because now I have my wife, my kids, my church. You know, everybody that surrounds me now helps me get through these things day by day.
Your band?
Yes, the band.
The band.
Yeah, the band.
Yeah, them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys too. Yeah, don't forget about them.
Yeah.
No, yeah, of course. I mean, you know,
what's your name? Are you new?
No, the brothers help me out every single day, man. You know, we all talk about things that go on in our lives, and, you know, things that we're going through. And we have no fear of asking, hey, bro, I need prayer. Even if it's a silent prayer, like, hey, I don't want to talk about it, but I just need some prayer. You know, so yeah, I got everybody who's definitely here for me now.
Well, band is really a band of brothers, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a different kind of relationship than just your buddies.
Right.
It's more family, I would expect, because you do have your creative struggles.
Right.
I guess that's a nice way of putting it, right?
Yeah.
I would absolutely be that way. I'm that way sometimes with the show and Aaron, I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we've had those moments.
Yeah.
Hey, Jermaine, tell us a little about your story.
Well, so my story with depression and suicide, it goes back kind of like with Ryan, back to probably high school, late teenage years. I used to be the kid that wore a smile and had the magnetic personality, but behind that smile was so much anguish and just self-hatred. I used to cut myself and stuff. As a matter of fact, cool story about one of my tattoos I have. I'll get to that tattoo story in a second. But unfortunately, I wish I could say that it was like one time I attempted suicide, but I think I attempted 2, maybe 3 times. One time I tried to hang myself from a tree, which was crazy. And ironically enough, the branch broke. And so that one failed. The one time I tried to swallow a bunch of pills and then I threw up all the pills.
Oh, wow.
And
something's saying not today.
Yeah, right? Something's definitely saying not today. And one of the last times, I really didn't I just cut my wrist and I cut the word love in my arm and then sliced through the word numerous times and stuff like that. So on my arm, I'll show you guys, there's the word ahavaha. In Hebrew, that means love. So over the marks of where I longed and craved for love or this type of fulfillment, because I didn't grow up with my dad. I grew up in a fatherless home, single mom, 3 boys. I was the oldest. So over that tattoo, over where I cut the word love in my arm, I put the love of God, because in that last moment of me cutting myself like that is when I experienced the love of God. I didn't get saved in a church or anything like that. When I got saved in my apartment room in college. So I didn't know where to go, what to do. All I could say was, help me, God. And after cutting love in my arm, so and he did. He came and he showed me love that I've never experienced before, and a comfort in that moment that I never experienced before. And so that's where I put that. So I've always had what's crazy is, despite those times and those moments in my life of trying to commit suicide or going through random spurts of depression and all, it's so crazy how God still used me to help other people out in their depression or suicidal thoughts to overcome those things. And even before I became a Christian and all, just simply being there for people. For me, I wouldn't say that I necessarily go through depression anymore, but there are times where I kind of feel depressed. And when I feel those feelings of depression, what I've been dealing with, just to be really vulnerable in the season that I'm in right now, it's crazy because things are actually moving finally for us musically. Things are moving for us, even with my business, allowing me to make an income while I'm still trying to fulfill my dream. There are still times where I get depressed because I feel discontent in my season of where I'm at, and it causes me to get depressed, and I go through these little weird moods and all. But I have to always remember and reassure myself of who I am in Christ, because it was the lack of identity that kept me in depression, because I did not know who I was. I can go on and on about stories and names that I was called. I grew up being bullied, and all kinds of things. People belittling me constantly and everything, and all that triggering depression in me. So now that I understand and have a firm foundation in my identity in Christ, it gives me, I use that as fuel to when I feel those depressed things, you know, hey, I am enough, I am worthy. I may not be in the season I want to be in right now, and things may not be where I think they should be right now, but God has a plan. I need to trust the process. I need to find joy in this moment, in this season. Find joy. You are joy. You are love. You are enough. You are worthy. God has a plan and a purpose for your life. Stay the course. Stay the course. And it gets me out of my depression because I have to affirm myself. So I've become a bit of an advocate against, as we talked about on the last podcast with the band, you know, some of the music we want to write is relevant music to so that help people that are going through suicidal thoughts or depression, or people who are dealing with anxiety, or people who are dealing with sadness or any type of emotion, because we are human beings. Whether we live for Christ or not, we have to choose those fruits of the Spirit in order to walk in the fruits of the Spirit, to bear those fruits. So when we don't choose those things, we have those other negative connotating words dragging us down and all. So writing music to really help people is the goal right now.
Well,
let people know that they're not alone.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, and that's I'm going to come back and talk more about that after we talk to Yung Lou, but that's one of the things is we're not alone. And people with depression and everything, you feel like you're alone. You're the only one dealing with this.
Yep.
And little do you know that like everybody's dealing with it and at some level.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to Yung Lou after the break?
Yeah, we're going to take a break and then we'll come right back with Yung Lou's story. And so
sorry to put you on hold, Yung Lou, but
that's okay.
We're good.
The next one's all you.
Yeah. Here's some Skillet on Rock Salt News Cats Experience.
And on the line, of course, we got Yung Lou, Ryan Garza from Reborn, and Jermaine. I don't know your last name. Nixon. Jermaine Nixon from TRICORD out there in I almost did it again, out there in Atlanta. You're just from Atlanta, okay, Jermaine?
That's where he wants to live anyways, probably.
You're in Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, the first break, we heard stories from Ryan and Jermaine.
Right.
And Yung Lou, you're up.
Yes,
It's a bat, man. What's your story?
Let's go. No,
But you got to wrap your story, okay?
I see. One time, nothing.
Oh, man.
My story, like I guess my upbringing, to make it as quick as I could. I was raised in a fatherless home as well. The person who I thought was my father was not my father. He was my brother's father. Technically my stepbrother, but I was raised with him not thinking he was my brother. I found out when I was 13 that he wasn't my dad. He left my mom when I was like 7, so I had a dad for maybe 5 years, and it was really my stepdad, to be honest. That was one of the big factors on me not having an identity, being depressed because I didn't know where I come from, like my identity. Of course, the traumatic stress that comes with losing a father, losing someone you love at such a young age. In school, like the typical depressed kid, right? I was bullied, made fun of, didn't have a lot of friends, didn't have the freshest clothes, didn't have the new shoes. And that was pretty much like how it went up until about maybe like freshman, sophomore year. And then I started dabbling in music, and all of a sudden everyone wants to be my friend. But for a long time, like nobody was like, I think my only circle was me, Ryan, and like 3 other guys. It was just, that was like my every day constantly looking for a way out, every day trying to make it out of the situation that we're in. And I like how you said that there's depression on different levels, because Ryan had his own issues with depression. Like Ryan had both of his parents, but he was still depressed. I was depressed because I only had one parent. People have different depression levels on why they're depressed. And I think like, how do I put this? The reason people need to bring awareness to depression and more people need to speak on it is because you can have $1 million, still be depressed because no one really loves you because they just love you for your money. You can have no money and still be depressed. You know what I'm saying? There's different levels of depression. So it's really crucial that we always bring awareness to depression and talk about depression. And that's why I was so excited to do this interview, because depression is everywhere. You don't have to have it all together. That doesn't mean you're not going to be depressed. And like how Ryan said, it comes in waves. There's days where I'll literally be at a show and having fun, and out of nowhere I'm just depressed. Like, why am I depressed? I'm in line to get nachos. Why am I depressed?
Because they might run out of cheese.
So because I don't want to like tell the whole story or nothing, but basically like everybody deals with depression, and I think we need to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I want to say again, I'm certainly no professional in depression or psychology or suicide. I just wanted to talk to everybody and get their stories and share, my story as well. So yeah, I just want somebody to, if you need to relate, you got 3 or 4 different stories right here that are completely different with all the same outcome. Right. And now a big part of it. Well, I'm going to back up. I should have found this quote, but Dennis Leary, this was one of the things that kind of made me feel better. Dennis Leary had a thing in his stand-up act, and this is like way back early 90s, when everybody was doing the depressed thing, when it was chic to be depressed.
When it was pain.
What's that?
When it was pain.
Yeah. And he was commenting on, all the grunge scene and all that, and everybody being depressed. And he goes, let me tell you something. Your life is not just roses every day. It's the little things. Yeah. It's the 5-minute cigarette that makes you feel better, or, whatever the little thing is, the music, or it's not 100% pedal to the metal happiness every day for everybody.
Yeah.
It's the little moments of happiness. It's like Ferris Bueller says, if you don't slow down once in a while, you're going to miss it.
Yes. Yep.
So, my story, and like I said, I'm going to tell it with a bit of humor. It's kind of dark. It's just the stupid stuff that goes on in my head, but I had, back in the 2008 to 2010 time when we were in the recession and everybody was losing their homes and everything, I was homeless. I lost my place, got the family. We were living on a couch. It's somebody else's house. And I got a job that would take me out to Colorado, which I'd never been to Colorado before. But I was like, let's go. Well, I got out there. I had no friends. I had no support system. Times were getting tough with the marriage. The work was overwhelming. And I had this plan because I finally had gotten to the point where I went, this is as good as it gets. It doesn't get any better than this. And this isn't that great. It's just as good as it gets. And I had this plan that I was gonna pull my car into the garage of the place that I worked that nobody checked. Nobody checked this garage. I was just gonna let it run because I went, you know what? I'm gonna leave the owner a big fat mess to clean up. And that's my dark humor in it. That was my dark humor in it. Okay, I don't want anybody to think negatively or anything like that. But that was. But my thing was, I always said to myself, well, I want to see what's on the next page. So not today, maybe tomorrow. Wow. And then tomorrow I'll come and I go, well, I want to see what's going to happen tomorrow. So I'll put this off for another couple of days. And I just kept going that way. Wow. And it finally got, it got better and better. And certain opportunities came up to put me in cities that I wanted to be in. I met a lot of great people that they had no idea what I was going through, but they helped me through it because they were just there.
Yeah.
I didn't tell them the story or anything like that, but they were just there. And And then I started realizing that if I want my happiness, well, then I better get out and make it myself, because nobody's going to give it to me. And that's why I'm doing this, because this was something I always wanted to do, and we pulled it together. So
look at you now.
yeah, and music really is, and that's why I wanted to do it with the music and everything. The music really is a way for anybody to relate. You know what I'm saying? There's a ton of songs that we put together for the show today, and they all say a little bit of a different message. And our hopes were that, well, maybe if that song didn't speak to you, this song will. That was my thing. I'd cruise in the car and I'd just turn up the music, and you know, that would make me I could at least know that someone else felt the same way I did.
Yeah, music is a big tool, man. It helps a lot of people, and you know, I'm sure I can speak for each one of us. So we're glad we're able to make that kind of music to be able to help others and show that, you know, what we've gone through, we can overcome it, and so can you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
go ahead.
I got a Linkin Park tattoo, bro. Like,
oh, there you go.
That's that I actually got this today. Chester passed, but from like what Ryan, like 99 all the way up until like after high school, bro. Like Linkin Park was one of the main bands that spoke to me, and it would get me through my day, because when I was thinking those thoughts, I'd pop in one of my CDs, and it's like on the bus ride home from school, and I'm like, you know what, like tomorrow will be okay. Like tomorrow will be better. It's gonna be a new day. Like, don't do it today. Like, don't do it tonight. Don't go home and do something stupid.
Right.
So I agree. Music does help, because
and we've got Linkin Park in the lineup today. We're doing Crawling today.
Crawling, yeah.
Oh man, dope. So
yeah.
dope.
So
Linkin Park was a huge influence for me as well.
Really,
especially when it comes to writing music and everything, because
yeah,
they helped me through a lot of that depression and a lot of the hurt that I felt and stuff like that. When I was in band, one of the cool saying, I don't know who coined the statement, but it said, "Where words fleet, music speaks," and it's always me, man. So music's always that thing that you want to say that where you can't find the words, there's always a song or a composition that says exactly what you wanted to say and stuff.
Yeah.
So, oh man, that's so cool.
Well, and you know, Chester really, I mean, I don't want to get into Chester's death, but Chester really felt it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you listen to the songs, you know, it's not, Linkin Park is not all about, you know, like 80s hair bands walking down the Sunset Strip and picking up on girls. That's not what they sing about. If you really, and like the album that I really liked and listened to in my depressing times was Minutes to Midnight.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's such a great album. And yeah, if you're in that headspace, that album will speak to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think as going through trying to pick songs for this playlist, I noticed some of the songs we had picked about suicide and depression were the #1 song of the group, because people are dealing with it. I think that's what draws kids to NF a little bit. That he didn't have,
definitely.
You know, he's got that song, and we're gonna play it on a playlist just like you. Just like you.
I want to say this real quick. A lot of, since we're all obviously Christians, right? A lot of people didn't understand NF when he came out, and although now he doesn't really talk about God as much, but like when he first came out, when he was talking about God, like in every song, a lot of Christians didn't understand, how can you be depressed? You're a Christian, but like that stuff, if you've never really dealt with it, I guess you can never understand. Like that stuff is, like Ryan said, it comes in waves. Like some days you're good, some days you're not. Even when you're saved, there's still something God's still working on you even after you're saved. So I'm so glad that NF made that type of music, because there was a lot of people that didn't have a song to go to, that were saved, that felt like they couldn't, you know what I mean? So NF was shout out to NF, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to put it, Yung Lou.
Yeah. And the song Just Like You, it talks about there's people that are hurting, that don't have it all together, just like you. Right. There's millions.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I grew up with a mom and a dad and never really felt depressed at all. but it really hit me that it's a real thing when we had a guy that in Northern California area that went to high schools, I actually all over the country, talking to young kids about being positive, and then would invite them to a meeting at night. And they did feats of strength and weightlifting and everything, and would talk to kids and probably have led thousands of kids to Jesus Christ and help kids get over their own depression. And come to find out, he was dealing with depression, and he was, pills and stuff like that. And I remember waking up a Sunday morning and my wife goes, "Guess who just committed suicide?"
Wow.
And I just couldn't believe it that had happened. But the story came out that he was dealing with depression, and it finally got to him. And because basically he grew up in a household where he was a football star, but he was never good enough for his dad. He was never good enough. And it just fought him through all, the ages, that he was never good enough. And it finally took him. But I really never thought that Christians or leaders or pastors or whatever, would deal with depression, because if you follow God's word, you won't deal with it. But that's not the case.
Right.
We're all human.
That's right. And just as I tell people, as the Bible says, Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And one of you mentioned how we when we get depressed, we feel isolated. And that's why I always tell parents and everybody, get your kids involved with youth groups or whatever. Get them involved with friends, because if you have friends, you have a meaning in life most of the time.
That was I dealt with I'm going to call it depression. I'm not going to say I'm clinically depressed, because I haven't been diagnosed or anything like that. But I had a period where my wife and I split up, and I was living out here in California. She's in Colorado. The plan was for her to move out here. It didn't happen that way. We had split up, and I just went off the deep end, and I was living in a place. I was living in a city where I didn't know anybody or anything like that. So it was just me, and I'm making a 75-mile trek out here to Sacramento so I can see my friends and family, to be around people. But one of the things that kind of called out to me was church. I wasn't going to church. I was usually working on Sundays, and I wasn't involved or anything like that. So I started visiting churches and seeing what's out there. And it was just, I think for some, maybe that's not the answer for you. Going to church maybe is not the answer for you. But what I'm getting at is there's got to be something that makes you feel better that will help you. And whatever that is, if it's going to a rock festival, then that's what it is. If it's going to church, that's what it is. Whatever it is, just find some people that'll talk and, give you the support you need, because they're out there, and we all feel it. We all been through it. I don't think that there's just a person alive that hasn't dealt with some form of depression at some point and question themselves. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I think just real quick, a lot of times I've done some studies and a lot of research on depression. When I went off to college, I was doing a major in music education and psychology. And one of the cool things that I learned about depression what's cool is growing when I got saved and started going to church and learning like ministry and stuff, seeing the outlook of both the mental aspect of depression and the spiritual aspect of what's going on. And it's so cool how like even in the spiritual and the mental platform, how they're pretty similar in what's going on. As a believer, we understand that it's a demonic attack, because the Bible says we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but of spirits and principalities and all. And so the same thing that's kind of going on in your mind with people who deal with anxiety and depression, it's pretty similar in the same aspect. for me, I don't understand anxiety. My wife, she deals with severe anxiety. You won't believe it just because of how confident she acts, but she has such terrible anxiety, and that's been a huge battle of ours in our marriage. Just as when I slip into those random depressed thoughts, like she doesn't really deal with depression, so she can't really say that she grasps what's going on. But what's going on in both of our minds is pretty similar, just in a different kind of way. We're both under a spiritual attack, obviously, at that time, but there's just like some kind of chemical imbalances that are also going on. And so it in the spiritual aspect, it's kind of like saying something fuzzy is going on, but in the mental aspect, it's also saying something fuzzy is going on in your mind and all. And what's crazy is I think that women, they say more words than us and they talk more than we do. And a lot of issues, suicide is highest with men. And the reason why I think that is highest with men is because we're not taught as men to express our emotions or to talk about our emotions and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's what I think it really kills us a lot of times. So anybody who's listening to this podcast, I want to encourage you, find a confidant, find somebody you can talk to, find somebody who can relate, even if they can't relate, just so you can vent and get those emotions off. Somebody, because we're taught to just suck it up and be a man, but God created us with emotions. God created us to be able to express, and let's go biblical. You talk about David. David knew how to express his emotions. If you ever read Saul,
yeah,
hardcore, man, like he goes through all kinds of bats. Like he goes through depression. He talks about, I wish I could just die right now. He goes through anger and he's like, I'm about to go and kill the lot of them. Like he goes through things, but he expresses his emotions to God. And you know what's cool about it? Like we think that if we feel some type of way that it's not okay to talk about it with, no. You got to remember, Jesus was 100% God, but he was also 100% man.
Come on.
Jesus expressed emotions too. When he, I was about to say pissed off. I don't know if I can say that.
Well, you said it.
You said it, but it's out there, man.
Jesus got pissed off. Jesus used to tell people about themselves. He flipped tables. There was times where Jesus also had to retreat the rest so that he could talk to the Father and just be restored. There were times where he put people in check because he had to tell them off and be real. Jesus was a G, bro. Like
we were just talking to I forgot his name from 3 Days Under. Patrick from 3 Days Under, and we were talking about the same thing, and he said he was talking about Jesus and Simon.
Oh yeah.
Peter.
Simon Peter.
Yeah, and how he was telling him, what did he say to him?
I will never forsake you, whatever. And he said, maybe that's a different story, but
no. It was the one where he said, for that time, you couldn't have been cussed out by anybody worse than what Jesus had said to.
Oh, when he said, I will never forget you, Jesus. And he goes, you will, deny me 3 times before midnight.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I agree with you. And I've brought that up a couple of times myself, which is, the funny one that's going around right now is, and I think you mentioned this last week, Aaron, is, what would Jesus do? He would take the vaccine. And
yeah,
I feel it on my heart to say this, I guess, as along the lines of what we're talking about. So a lot of times, like because we're men, it is instilled and drilled into us that we can't talk about our emotions. You should be a man. You shouldn't be crying. Like that's not. At some point, that becomes a form of pride that you can't talk about. And pride is a sin. Yep. So we need to know Jesus so we can know better than that. But a lot of people don't get saved. So let's just talk about like in general, right? If you do deal with that and you deal with depression, like we'll figure it out. We'll see what we can do. But like, make sure when you have kids, do not pass it on to your kids. Yeah. I know a lot of people who they are depressed right now. I apologize. They are depressed right now.
He's got another interview, Aaron.
But like they're depressed. Me and Ryan have a friend. He's always depressed, and now that he has kids who are like 5 and 6, he's hard on them, and he tells them certain things. I'm like, dude, that's what your dad used to tell you, and you know that you always talk to us about how your dad, you're depressed because of what your dad spoke into your life, and you grew up thinking you weren't this. Why are you passing it to these kids? Oh, well, I had to go through it. That's just life, bro. And I think we need to get out of that mindset that passing on that depression is not healthy. We can really put it into it as simple as that. If we just reverse and speak positivity into our kids' life. Like when my dad used to tell me, you're not a man because you can't catch a ball. Well, my son doesn't catch a ball. Hey, it's okay. Try again tomorrow. Not, oh, you can't catch a ball. You're a little girl. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So that's one way to fight it for sure. I know for a fact.
Hey, let's take a break here.
Okay.
We'll come back and talk about more ways just to overcome depression, and what you guys are saying is really good. And so we'll be right back on the Rock Salt Musecast Experience.
Cool. Rock Salt Musecast Experience with Aaron and Dave, and our very special Rock Salt episode. It's our suicide show.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron, do you got that info on the suicide prevention line and all that?
Yes. If you just dial 988, it will take you to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
And I would assume that if you need somebody to talk to, they're there.
Yes. Also, there's Celebrate Recovery, which is a faith-based group we'll talk about in another segment. But celebraterecovery.com. You can go there and find out information how to get help through them. And then there's
the organization that we're going to have on.
Yes, Right Love on Her Arms.
Okay.
And you can just Google that up, and that'll take you to their website.
There are people out there to talk.
Yes.
And because that's a big thing. When I was going through all my depressed times, man, if there was just somebody I could talk to, and I kind of distanced myself from my friends when I was doing that, because I felt like I was talking about the same thing over and over and over. And it was kind of like, poor, pitiful me. Nobody wants to hear this anymore. I'm going to lose my friends because I keep talking about this and I can't move on. But I didn't lose any of my friends. They just didn't understand why I was distancing myself from them. And I finally had to tell one of them why, because he was like, I guess we're not friends anymore. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is all that's going on in my head right now. And I'm feeling like I'm the killjoy, and nobody wants to listen to me go on about, all my problems. And he's like, dude, let's just go out and have some fun, but that's what I needed. We got out and we just did stuff, and it took my mind off of things. And I moved on a little.
Yeah. At the end of the last break, we were talking about, as men, we teach our sons, hey, get up,
be tough,
be tough, and all that. Be tough. And that's the one thing I like about, my wife with my boys. She's much more caring about those things than I am. And she's really taught me a lot about making sure they're okay, and teaching them it's okay to fail, but you got to get up. Don't play a victim.
Yeah.
Got to get up and move on. But it's okay to cry and care. I remember my son's last high school football game, they lost, and he comes off the field and he's crying, because this is it. He's not going to play in college. He had a great time with all his friends. And I'm like, why are you crying? And my wife walks over and just hugs him. And I walk over and I learned something right there that, that's probably something I should have said, and I needed a little more caring with that. So I walked over and gave him a hug too, and told him it's okay, and move on. And I know Ryan, you have a little boy who's 3 or whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You're talking about that, and that's something that happened the other day. He has this little ball, right, and he throws it into this net, and he's like, Dad, I can't. And I'm like, yes, you can. Keep on doing it. And finally he got it through there, and he's like, Dad, I did it. I'm like, yeah, you just got to keep trying, keep going.
Doing it. Keep doing it.
That's super cool.
What's
I
that?
have a 3-year-old. Well, he just turned 4 actually last month. And it's sometimes I kind of, even though I didn't grow up with a dad, I have to always kind of make sure myself that things that were said to me, my mom was tough. For her to be a woman, she was a tough woman. So I have to make sure that a lot of times that I'm just not like, my mom didn't express emotions and stuff like that. She was very hardcore. And so with my son, when he's crying about something, I'm like, oh, why are you crying? And I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, hey, baby, come here, baby. What's wrong? Tell daddy what's wrong. Okay, it's going to be okay. Okay, so let's figure out how to fix it. Let's figure out how to do better. Okay. And I got it because sometimes my wife, I'm the assertive one in our family. So I'm like, God, why you always got to let me be the jerk woman?
I'm always the bad guy, man.
I hate it, man.
Yeah, it's that wait till daddy gets home thing.
Hey,
Come on, why you got to do that?
Can we do some dark humor real quick? I got you right now. My mom used to be like, oh yeah, wait till your daddy gets home, is it? But thank God he never came home.
That's bad and funny at the same time.
Ryan, am I lying?
Hey, we're just telling jokes. It's all good.
That's a good way to see the positivity, I guess.
I truly did. I didn't want today's show to just be, all depressed and everything. I wanted some humor in there, so that's good. Good one, Lou.
and my dad.
Thanks for speaking up.
Yeah. And my dad did come home, and it wasn't good. It was,
You know what? This was a very vivid memory for me, and I'm going to say I was about 5 or 6 years old. I grew up. My dad wasn't around, but we were still a military family, so I had all the military benefits and stuff like that. So we went to the officers club, and it was, kind of a fine dining thing, not high end, but, nicer. And there was me and my 2 brothers and my mom, and I apparently was acting up somehow at the table. And my oldest brother, he leaned down and he went, "You want me to take you outside?" And I went, "No." And he goes, "Then knock it off." And that was all I needed. That was all I needed. I was like, all right, I'll stop, because I do not want to go outside, because outside's much worse.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need that kind of structure. I mean, I needed it sometimes when I was depressed. I needed somebody to kick me in the butt.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need it. Yeah. But one of the other things that I've got a million random thoughts right now. One of the other things from the last break that kind of popped into my head, which is, not to be cliche about it, but that saying about the footsteps, where you're walking on the beach and there's 2 rows of footsteps and then there's one, and you're like, what happened? And that's where I carried you. Really, it's a learning experience. At least it was for me. All that stuff was a learning experience of how to deal with things and how to, prune out the stuff in my life that I didn't really need. That was maybe, I needed it at a time, but maybe it was dragging me down now. Yeah. So you got to prune that stuff out and move on and grow. And it was a learning experience for me. And that's the thing. I wanted to see what's on the other page, the next page. And that's what's brought me to where I am, because just like if the gun hadn't jammed that day, Ryan, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
Yeah.
And life's better, right?
Oh, definitely.
You got the family and the kids and all that. And I would assume the same for both of you, right? Lou and Jermaine?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Definitely.
There is light at the end of the tunnel is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to go through the dark time to really appreciate that light.
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to put each of you on the spot right now. Just real quick, as we kind of wrap this discussion up. Young Lou, I'll start with you. What's some things you would tell people that they were going through depression and how to overcome it and how to get through it? What would you tell them
So,
if, you know?
Yeah. So first is you need to talk about it. And like you said, you can talk to all your friends, and sometimes you feel like they don't want to listen. Sometimes they don't want to listen. Sometimes they're busy. They don't got time for a whole story. And that's when you feel even like you can't talk to people. But again, like find a hotline, find a church, find a friend, find somebody who's outside of your circle that you can speak to. But step one is to talk about it, because if you bottle it up inside, I mean, it's a lose-lose. You need to get that out of your system. Talk about it. It's okay to cry about it. But at the same time, don't throw a pity party and just soak in your depression. Get up, walk around the street real quick, walk around the block, get some air. Try to figure out a solution, because if you just soak in your depression, you're never going to get out of it. So I think it's really important to, one, talk to somebody. Two, don't throw yourself a pity party. And then 3, something that worked for me is I would get depressed because I was just at home. I wasn't working. I wasn't being productive. I felt like I was like a scrub, even though I really wasn't. Like I had money in my pocket. I was doing all these amazing shows and events. A lot of people knew who I was. I was getting popularity in the city, but it was I still felt like I wasn't good enough. And I went and got me a job. I got my mind out of it. Stepped out of the house for a little bit. And there's little things like that I think get skipped over. Like talk to people. Try to stay productive. Try to don't stay at home all day, and don't soak in your depression. Like actively try to get out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's great. Hey, Jermaine, you're up on this.
Exactly ditto to Young Lou. Definitely always talk about it. Do not hold it in. Don't try to don't let it fester on you like a sore or whatever. Like, let it heal over. You want to definitely connect yourself with people. For me, before really digging into a deep relationship with Christ, things that would help me were go for a run, express my emotions. It's okay to cry. Let it out. Don't hold it in.
Yeah.
You want to definitely surround yourself with people who can help or people you can trust. If you don't feel like you can trust somebody, then you better learn to trust Jesus.
Right. Amen.
Because I mean that's the truth. Like I said in my testimony, I wasn't even going to church when I gave my life to Christ. It was in my apartment room. I didn't know who else to talk to or what else to talk to about. I just said, God help me, and I just released what I was feeling at that moment. And I felt such a peace and a calm come over me that I never felt before. And so yeah, find a church, connect with people, never be by yourself. Even if you're kind of a loner type, it's important to get out every now and then. Try to socialize,
There you go.
Like do stuff like that.
Okay. And Ryan, how about you?
Man, I really think everybody hit it on the nail. But I think something that helped me obviously is writing. If it could be poetry, it could just be writing in a journal or a book, even writing music like what we all do. As we stated earlier, I think music is something that's very powerful that helps a lot of people through these kind of things. So tell your story. There's somebody out there who may have it worse, and I'm not saying that people's struggles aren't bad, but I see it as there's always somebody else who could have it worse than I do, so tell your story, because there is somebody, or there could be somebody out there who has gone through something similar and may not know, like, man, what do I do next? What can I do? How do I get over this? And, you could be that person to save that person's life. I'm sure that each one of us might have already heard, like, hey, your music has saved my life, or has helped me through a tough time. And that's something that actually helped me, music. So, and as everybody said, talk to people, because bottling up inside, eventually it gets to that point where you're so crushed, you just like forget it all, you know. So yeah, definitely find somebody to talk to, you know. And if you can't find a physical person, hey, God will listen. So, you know, just keep that
He's
in
got
mind.
big ears.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
He's got really big ears.
You can hear all of our prayers.
I think what we're all at the end of the day, what we're all saying is find an outlet and try to release that, because if you don't, you're gonna
Yeah.
You know, for me, I think a big part of it for me was that I'd never really, I don't know, been alone, lived on my own. You know, I always had, you know, I met my wife when we were still teenagers. And so, yeah, I never really ventured out on my own and had to fail on my own and do those things by myself. And that's one of the things that I started doing was I lived near San Francisco, and I would sit in my room and think, well, I can sit here all night and wallow, or I can jump in the car and head on down to San Francisco and find something to do.
There you go.
By myself. And some of the greatest times I've had are by myself. I mean, I get into trouble and find really cool stuff. And yeah.
Look, now you got Aaron.
Yeah, and now I got Aaron.
That's a different story for a different day. Oh, you're making him depressed.
I don't know why Ryan's laughing, because when people tell that to Ryan about me, he gets all like, "Oh, hey, man." If anything, Lou makes it worse. Oh man, my bad, bro.
I think what I think I'm getting at though is it's okay to be by yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that if you're depressed, you should be alone. That's not what I'm saying. But what I tell a lot of people when they say they have problems, whatever it is, whatever their problem is, I always ask the same question, which is, well, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because you can sit here and talk about your problem all you want, but if you don't have a solution, then what are you doing?
Right.
Wasted words.
Yep.
You gotta.
Well,
what do you
want to talk to? Yeah.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to go talk to, you know, whoever, the church, or, you know, if you're not religious and you don't want to focus on religion to help you through it, that's okay. Whatever's going to get you through. I mean, if you want to go to the AA meeting, or you want to see a psychologist or whoever, you know, you got to get it out there, because there are people that have or can help you find solutions to feeling better.
Yep. That's so good.
Yep. Hey, thank you guys for coming on and talking about this. We're going to take a quick break, and I know you guys got some things going on for 2022 with your bands. We want to let our audience know what's going on with that too, where they can come see a perform or whatever. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Experience with Aaron and Dave. I stole it from Aaron.
Yeah, I know.
He went, and I went,
that's okay. Hey, we just had fun off air. That was fun. Jermaine, what's going on with TRICORD for 2022 as we look into next year?
Well,
they're getting a new member named Davey.
We got our cowboy member named Dave. I mean, cowbell Dave.
Hey, I play triangle too.
He completes the boy band.
Yeah. Well, you need that fifth member, man.
Yeah.
We do, man. We're working on it. We're trying to get our fifth wheel.
Yeah.
Well, what's on the agenda for TRICORD in 2022? I am trying. We got a couple of shows already booked, which we're super excited about. A couple of festivals booked. One of the ones that we're probably the most stoked about that's already booked is Rockfest in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, cool.
I've gotten to connect with some of the artists that are going to be a part of that event. And man, when I tell you that we're about to light that place up for Jesus, man, it's about to be unreal. We're so excited.
Nice.
we're also writing new music because we're trying to, like I told you on the last interview, we're trying to get ready for our full album, which is going to be titled WAR, which is an acronym. So we are the resistance, Dave.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Coming soon, man. And one of the things we're taking up on y'all's advice, and we're gonna try to find somebody. Reborn, Yung Lou. We're all gonna do a mini tour together.
There you go. See, now you get Yung Lou in there, and you guys complete the boy band. You got moves, right, Lou?
Yeah.
It's got the moves. Got the moves like Jagger, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna do a couple of like mini tours going on with different people, and like actually we are planning after the beginning of the year, sometime in February, we're going to do a Facebook Live concert, and we're trying to get a couple of people to join in that concert with us. And
Cool.
Nice.
Yung Lou and Ryan, I would love to connect with you guys after this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
it would be super cool to try to get you guys a part of that Facebook Live. We'll be on Facebook, and it's going to be on YouTube as well. And we'll just go live and do a concert from home for people.
Cool.
Cool.
Because there are
Give us a shout out while you do your live thing.
Yeah.
We will, man. We'll put you in a commercial.
There you go. Hey, let me MC it from my home.
Yeah.
See, there's me always trying to work the MC angle.
That's right.
Right.
Hey, Yung Lou, what's going on with you for 2022?
So we dropped the album Reignition. It was my first album for the Kingdom. Of course, I'm recording and I'm working, but I'm not necessarily working on the album. I think I'm going to just start dropping singles for the first quarter of the year.
Okay.
But I'm honestly in a new season. I'm going into this next year. Now after a year since I got saved last November, 2020. Now with this new coming year, like I know who I am in Christ. I know the word. I'm not scared to speak the word because I'm confident in what I'm saying now this time around. I think that first year I was still figuring it out. So I was kind of like tiptoeing, still preaching the word of God, but like tiptoeing on I guess the boldness part. A year later though, I know who I am, and I'm not gonna let nobody tell me what I can and can't say. As long as it's scripture, like I'm confident in what I'm saying. I'm bold in the spirit, I guess. And so this time around, I'm gonna start hitting it hard. I'm just gonna, now I know who I am, and it's time to start preaching the word of God.
Any
That's
events
right,
lined up already at all? Anything?
No. Tomorrow I'm going to Houston, Texas to film the last piece of my music video to the I Got It All remix, and I'm gonna be with Lucky Luciano out there. So we're going to he's a Christian rapper in Houston who he has a big platform. So I'm excited for that. We're gonna drop the video probably on New Year's. But as far as shows, no. I don't got nothing lined up yet.
So the videos drop New Year's. Okay.
Yeah.
Got something to watch.
Cool.
You know, and so, hey, Ryan, what's going on with Reborn for 2022?
Well, so far,
Album.
We have not any shows for December, and we're trying not to really book anything for the beginning of next year because we are going to be getting in the studio and finishing up the album.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
So we got that coming. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. It's gonna be fun. We're pretty excited.
Nice. I got to tell you, last night I was driving home from work, and I've got Deeper Again saved on my like songs, and I just hit shuffle, you know. So there's like a couple thousand songs in there, but Deeper Again came on, and I was like cranking it up and singing along. I love that song.
I think that's everybody's favorite, man. It's so far, you know, Ready to Fly was a big one. I think a lot of people have said that Reflection not necessarily didn't make the cut, but it just didn't have that power to it.
Yeah, I like I told you this before, but I like the vocals in Deeper Again.
Yeah, that one I think brings back a little bit of classic rock, so I think that's why everybody likes it.
Yeah, I like it. All right. So, you guys are all on the socials. I love to throw this out. You guys are all on the socials, right? TRICORD, Yung Lou, Reborn,
Sure.
like, follow, it all helps. And
Yes, it does.
And check it. All you guys are on Spotify,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like and follow, heart those songs, and
Apple Music, everything. So
Yeah.
that's good.
awesome. All right. Well, guys, thank you for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Awesome,
having us,
man.
man.
All right.
Thank you.
It's
Hey,
rock
word of
salt.
encouragement-
Oh, somebody got something?
Word of encouragement before we get off.
Yeah.
I just want to tell anybody who's going to be listening to this, you are loved and accepted, and there's a purpose for your life. You don't have to give up. Find the silver lining. Find something to cling on to, something that you love that's precious, that'll help you keep on and keep holding on to your life, because your life has value. You were not created by accident. There is a purpose for your life, and you are going to fulfill that purpose someday. So keep pushing and keep holding on.
Man.
Nice.
Amen. So
All right. Well, thank you guys.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Yep. Thank you for coming on. This is the Rock Salt Musicast Experience.